So why are you different? It's a question that lots of people may ask you, right? And it's not as always evident what we say to it. Most businesses and professionals are at the risk of commoditization, which means in the absence of a unique value proposition that the client absolutely wants. Your products, your services naturally become more commoditized and therefore margins become eroded. This morning I was sitting down with one of my largest clients and we were discussing a particular formula that is really essential for businesses to be on top of and make the most of every single part of the formula. So let's have a look at this, how it also pertains to you. Relationships plus insights equals impact. Let's start with number one, which is relationships. In Australia, and particularly also in the state that I live in, which is South Australia, it's very clear to me, having traveled the world and worked in 25 countries on the ground, that we have very much inherited a culture of relationship building in business, which means the more people you know, if you know who's who, it's so much easier to do business, right? And there's 2 degrees of separation and it works a treat. The second part of the formula then is insight. Now, insight is a more recent development in business dealings in which it really all comes back to capability building. The more you, with your products and services in your business, help clients to build capability, the more your business thrives. Particularly if that capability is exactly in the core areas that the client desperately needs. The third component is then obviously impact. Impact is all about you having enough value that in comparison to the money that you ask, puts the money really on the back burner because the value truly stands out. So it's about you really being able to compare in such ways that are highly favorable of your products and services so that you can bank a premium dollar for it. Now there's 5 important considerations as a result of this very formula that is very relevant also for you to have a look at in your business. For those investing heavily in relationship building with clients, they typically are investing in what I call a second-class citizen, because recent developments are such that the capability building, which is the insight creation, that one is really where the first-class citizen lives. So it means that if you really focus on the relationship building predominantly in the absence of a value proposition that the client really wants, because it's truly unique and there's very few others offering it, you are pretty much exposing yourself to the risk of discount discussions where you effectively lose money, 2, where procrastination happens on the decision-making end, and it also means that you actually have a higher rate of deals potentially lost in your CRM system. Now the second part then is when you're zooming in on relationships. Once again, if you go one level down, there's 3 core characteristics that we know right now based on thorough research done over many countries, not just Australia, is that people really value 3 things here in a business development manager or in their account manager. And that is really one where they show positive intent, which really comes down to the question, I as a client really feel that this person has my back and that they really have my best interests at heart. The second thing then is, right after the positive intent, is genuine care. The client pretty much interprets it as he or she really cares for me personally. And then the third one then is programize. It means that you don't necessarily plan time with the client or a prospect when you know that a budget is pending and a big deal is in the air. No, you effectively programize your time, schedule time up front throughout the years to ensure that you sit down with him and add value whether there is a big business pending or not. It may not come as a surprise that the best business development professionals cover all 3 bases really well as part of the relationship building side. The third consequence based off that formula is the following. For those people who heavily made sure that they have got the insights completely knotted out and they've articulated in a highly relevant way to the benefit of their customers, and they become world-class at that, their future is really financially guaranteed because there is suddenly no more competition. And last thing you want is the competition. The less competition there is, the more scarcity there is, and the easier you boil up as the sole provider of the various product and services that the client is after. And that can demand premium fees. The fourth consequence from this very formula has got to do with the dedicated time, focus, and investment that a company needs to make in its people to ensure that they, as custodians of the insights that you have grown over time and that you keep nurturing and developing in times of rapid change to stay on top or at the forefront of things, that you effectively use these custodians as strategic tools or levers, so to speak, that then go out to prospective buyers and proactively initiate meaningful conversations to teach those clients as to how your insight can build more capability in those core areas that the client desperately needs. Obviously, very often, organizational complexity stands in the way and stifles the process down and keeps people away from having these meaningful conversations with prospective buyers. So the best thing as an organization can do is to cut through the organizational complexities of structures and the likes that absorb people's time away from customers, and obviously also ensure that personal excuse making is eliminated, because unless time is dedicated and carved out in the calendar every single week, that time will obviously not be spent and invested well in the right buyers. Now, last but not least, number 5, the fifth consequence from this very formula. In terms of having the impact right, we know that we need both the relationships and the insights covered. The question really is all about to what extent you can convey your value, your impact, and articulate it in such a way that you show how your product or solution or your product or service is going to positively impact the top line of the business. Equally, how it's going to reduce the costs involved with it and reduce the risks. To the extent that you cover all three bases at a high level, you will have a high insight. If you then also add a high relationship factor in which the client would rank his or her desire to work with you and give you the business to the extent that it is high as well, you also have high relationship factor. Now, with the two combined, when those fuse, the impact is extremely high. That is where price becomes irrelevant, value stands out, and people want it at all cost. Now, the best thing you can do now is to assess for yourself what specific steps you can take immediately to dramatically increase your impact for your clients.